Okay, here, I've had this for about 2 years now, and I kind of need a bucket for it. The bucket it came with is kind of called a light materials bucket, and it's good for light materials like mulch, or I bought this from a recycling center, and I think they were using it a lot for moving around piles of soda cans and paper and stuff, so it's good for stuff like that. But the problem with this bucket, with loading like normal stuff like dirt, is it's just kind of too big, so you can never really get a good scoop. If you fill the bucket up, it's too full and the machine can't pick it up, and it doesn't grade well. And since it's so long, you can barely load the truck, because this machine barely reaches high enough to load the truck anyway. So what ends up happening, once the truck starts getting 3/4 of the way full, the material won't dump out of the bucket anymore. So let me show you what I mean. Bucket's not all the way full, and it's too heavy for this machine. I mean, this bucket, I've used it before for like firewood. It works great for that, but for dirt, it's just not meant for it. All right, so I'll show you what I mean. Watch what happens when I get a few scoops in here. I won't be able to dump out the dirt. Alright, so this right here demonstrates the problem quite well. So the Bobcat's as high as it can reach, and then with the bucket tilted down into the truck to load the truck, the dirt that's already in the truck stops the dirt in the bucket from spilling out. Now I know you can do things like, push it around and pull around to the other side of the truck, but either way it's a very slow, annoying loading process. So this should be a lot easier with a 4-in-1 bucket, because instead of having to dump out the bucket, you can just open up the bucket like a clamshell, and this whole section of bucket can lift out of the way, and this machine shouldn't have any issue loading this truck. It loads it, but not easily. You have to lift the arms up all the way, and it barely reaches. So it might be easier with the 4-in-1 clamshell bucket, because I can just open up the bucket instead of having to tilt it. Alright, so I'm going to order this 4-in-1 bucket online. So I've been looking at them. I think this is the one I'm going to go with. Alright, so I'm all set to try my new bucket out, but my one skid steer here has an issue with had a hose that was bad, so I want to take care of it. So it's Alright, so it's underneath the cab here, and it was one of the hoses that was going to the drive motor on this side. So while I'm at it, I'm going to change the other one as well. Here are the hoses out of the Bobcat. So this is the one here that was leaking. It was leaking probably right around here in the middle somewhere, this rubber section. Now the problem is it's a rubber section that goes to a pre-bent steel section, and the place where I get my hoses made, they have to ship it out to do that, and it takes a couple weeks. So my plan, I had this problem last year as well, same thing. So here's the pre-bent metal piece, and I cut this one off already. And then my plan is to weld on this fitting here. And then that way, the rubber section is removable from the steel section. So this one here I did last year. I'm going to redo this though, because I welded that with a stick welder and it didn't get welded very well. So I'm going to redo that one. I'm going to cut that off. I got another one of these fittings for it right there. And I'm going to do this one. And while I was at it, this hose here, that was okay. It wasn't leaking, but, you know, it's got the original date on it, 94. That's, you know, when the machine was built. So while it's open, I'm changing that. Here's the replacement hose for that one as well. So, all right, so let's get these pieces welded together. Pipe can pretty much sleeve in there enough to at least I'll be able to weld that and feel pretty confident that it's not going to leak. And I'm sure some people are going to suggest using a compression fitting, and I would have done that, but the one hose is pretty messed up, so I don't think it would have worked. And the hydraulic place said he didn't have any. And this one here, this is like a flare fitting, so that would be nice to flare it, but I don't know how to flare this hose. I mean, all the flaring tools I have only go up to like 5/8, and it certainly wouldn't do anything that thick. And the hydraulic shop said he didn't know either. So that's why it's getting done like this, but this should work. Alright, I got all the welding done. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. There was no porosity or anything as I was welding, plus filling in a gap and doing multiple passes. I feel a lot better about it. Alright, so these things got to go in here first. Now, pretty hard working on this thing. Like, it's kind of annoying that these have to cross, because like this motor gets fed from this side and that motor gets fed from that side. The plumbing inside of this thing could have been done differently, and it would have been a lot easier to work on it. switch these hoses around. The controls are backwards than what I want them to be. Alright, so this is it. This is my new Titan 72-inch 4-in-1 or multi-purpose bucket. So let's give it a try. It seems like it's built pretty well, and especially considering it was about the cheapest one on eBay. I mean, I didn't search on there that long, but this company was advertising pretty heavy on there. So let's alright, so let's try scooping into. I got a pile of dirt here to mess with, so I'll try scooping into that. I'll try loading my topsoil screener with it, and maybe try loading the truck. And I'm hoping one advantage I'm really hoping for is for this thing to do a better job loading the truck, because the other bucket couldn't really reach it. And this one should do it easily, because once I get the bucket up there, I can just unhinge it instead of having to dump it. Alright, so I'm running this bucket for the first time. So my initial thoughts, it's really heavy for this machine. I mean, with nothing in the bucket, you know, the machine can pick it up and move it all right, but it's heavy. When you got a scoop of dirt, you know, you can't get a full scoop with this machine and move it. It's too much weight. So I gotta try it on my other skid steer. That one's considerably bigger, but I did kind of buy the bucket for this machine, so I guess I need a bucket for this machine as well. The other thing I'm noticing, which is a bit of a problem really, is, so here, if I lift it up, this lever here, this opens it. So there you go, it's open. So let's get a scoop of dirt. About the maximum amount of dirt you can carry without, I'm right on the edge of tipping over. Like, I couldn't even lift that up all the way. And that's maybe a half of a scoop. So here's the issue. Watch me try to open the bucket. It won't do it. There's not enough power in the hydraulics. See, now that's kind of frustrating, because that was the whole point of this bucket, was to be able to open it with a full scoop. So it just, because it's got a lift up on it, it just won't do it. Alright, it wouldn't be fair of me to give this bucket a bad review because I was using it on a skid steer that's too small for it. So luckily, I just found this bucket here on Craigslist for 350 bucks, so at least now I can use this machine with, you know, that's the right bucket for it. It's the same width as this one. They're both 72 inches, but, you know, this one's, it's nice and light, so you can actually get a full scoop of dirt, and I've tried it, it's nice. So let's give this bucket another try on this bigger skid steer. So this one I think is rated, Bobcat rates this at a 2,000 pound capacity, and this smaller one here, they rate it at a 1,300 pound capacity. But, you know, running both of them, that bigger tracked one is substantially stronger than this smaller wheeled one. So let's give it a try. So I'm sure it's going to work. What my biggest concern though is that this bucket isn't going to be able to open up with a load of dirt in it, which is pretty frustrating because that's what I wanted it to do. And hopefully the hydraulic pressure for the auxiliary is higher on this machine than it is on the wheeled one, but it may not be. So really that would be kind of a design issue with probably either I'd say the diameter of those cylinders being too small, or the layout of how they're attached not being proper. Because if it can't open with a scoop of dirt in it, I don't really want the thing, honestly. So let's give it another try. Alright, so that definitely works a lot better on this machine. This machine has enough strength to pick up that bucket with a full scoop of dirt. And the other issue, that not being able to open up with a load on it, so it still has a hard time opening, and this is probably some of the hardest material to work with because it's kind of like a wet dirt that sticks together a little bit. But I kind of figured out if you sort of rock it down as you start opening the bucket, it will open up. So if I was loading a tall truck like a 10-wheeler, I mean this will load my 6-wheeler as it is, so it's not really an issue, but loading a taller truck, you could open up the bucket like a clamshell to get that extra bit of reach. So I was just playing around with it here. Really the real test is bringing it on an actual job, because running the thing for 5 minutes isn't good enough to just give an opinion on it. I mean, really the real opinion is running the thing for years and years, but let's bring it out. But it should be pretty good with that dozer blade spreading out material, because that's what I'm going to be doing a lot of here. So I brought this bucket to an actual job so I can test it out today. And I had a few people asking me about the bridge project, so I'll just show you that quick, because it's, I'm going to wait for the bridge to be completely done to put that video up, and there's still some work that needs to be done here. But I just finished stacking up these walls. And I mean, the main thing, you can drive across this bridge now. So there was a few delays with the bridge. The plan for this wood deck was to use trees that I had cut down for the house clearing site, and I brought them out and brought them to the mill. And then when I got them back there, it wasn't enough. So getting more boards took some time. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to try using this bucket. And I kept finding myself just using it like it was a regular bucket, and I know that's not really the point of this thing, so I'll try to use, I'm not used to the thing yet, so let me try to use it more as a combination bucket instead of just a regular bucket. So for after using this multi-purpose bucket for a day, I'll give my 1 day thoughts on it. I gotta say, it's this multi-purpose bucket, it's a lot like a lot of other things that are a multi-purpose tool. It can do a lot of things, but it's not really that good at any of those things. Kind of like a backhoe or a Swiss Army knife. So I'll explain. As far as being a regular bucket, it does that, but it is a extremely heavy regular bucket. It's probably triple the weight of what this bucket would weigh if it didn't open up like a clamshell. On this machine, that's not really a problem because it's plenty strong enough, but on the small Bobcat I bought it for, it is a problem because it was really even too heavy for the machine. You couldn't get a scoop of dirt in it. Well, a good scoop of dirt. As far as using it as a bulldozer, it works, but you can't see the blade, so you really can't see what you're doing, and you can't do that good of a job trying to do like a finished grade on like a gravel driveway. Really, I could do a much better job just with a regular bucket. Now, that could, my opinion could change after spending more time running it, but I don't think so. Alright, so my issue with this thing, with using it as a dozer, you can't see that blade. You don't know if you're digging in too deep or not deep enough. Even if you lean way forward, looking down, you can't see it. With the bucket closed, you can see exactly what's going on. So when you're pushing, say if you want to shave it down a little bit, you can see how much you're digging out. Or if you're not digging anything, plus the bottom of the bucket acts kind of like a grater, so it keeps the ground, it keeps your work nice and flat. So, this thing as a dozer, I'm not that impressed with it. A couple things I do like about it. One, it's nice for picking up little piles of stuff. Like if you have a small pile, you can scoop it up, grab it, and leave the ground nice and clean. Nothing else really does that. But that's not that big of a deal. It doesn't do well picking up logs or brush, or even boulders for that matter. This thing, you can only grab you could grab a considerably amount more boulders with the demolition bucket or the grapple bucket. Same with logs or brush. I do like how this thing can back drag material with the clamshell bucket open, and I also like how if you were spreading out like a 3/4 inch stone on a driveway and had to do a consistent job with it, you could do a good job just opening it up a little bit and traveling, like tailgating it out of the back of a truck. So that's nice. Couple notes on this bucket. This is made by Titan. One thing I would, if I was this company selling these, making these, one thing I would change right away, I would increase the diameter of these cylinders, because them being this size doesn't really give them enough strength to open it up all the time, and it's a lot faster than it needs to be, so putting bigger cylinders on it would slow it down and make it stronger. But I think you could bend this thing if you really tried. Like if you grabbed something in that corner and had nothing on that side and squeezed this, you might bend this thing. So maybe that wouldn't be such a good idea. Another thing I would change on it, these hoses are too long. I mean, really they should probably take 2 feet off of there, but so maybe on a different machine that would be less of an issue, but I guess if I ever destroyed them, I'd probably get shorter ones made. I do like how the grease fittings are on this machine, the way they're inside so they won't get damaged, and they're all on the outside so you can get to them. So that's a plus. Alright, so these are just my one-day thoughts. So, you know, I'm open to suggestions on tips for maybe being better at running this thing. I'm sure with more time, too, I'd probably get better at it. I'll keep running the thing. If I really don't like it, I'll throw it on Craigslist or something. I see there's a few on there right now locally to me, but so in my opinion, if you do a lot of land clearing and tree work, this is the type of bucket to get. This is called a root grapple, and I bought this one over a year ago now from this place, and the thing's been great. Haven't had any issues with it at all, and it works excellent for brush, logs, stumps, and cleaning up land clearing sites, because you can use that thing like a comb and comb all the brush and roots and everything out of the ground and leave the dirt where you want to leave it on the ground, and it's just super fast to clean up with this thing. So if you're considering buying a 4-in-1 bucket, I would have to instead recommend a demolition grapple bucket instead, because this bucket can still work fine with dirt or gravel, and this bucket is awesome for grabbing like demolition debris if you're taking down buildings, because you can slide under a pile and grab huge scoops of material with this thing and move it around and load it in a dumpster or move it somewhere else. Plus you could still grab logs or rocks or stumps with it just fine. And despite this being a larger bucket than that 4-in-1 bucket, it is lighter.